Yeah, my name is George, and with me is Chris, and today we are looking at the terrible shit show that is Mac and Me.
Directed by a guy named Stuart Raffill. He also directed Tammy and the T-Rex, which
Okay.
it has been gaining more notoriety recently as another terrible kid-oriented movie. Like, I think it was released as a PG-13 movie, but it also has an R cut with ridiculous gore, and it has Denise Richards and Paul Walker in it. Yeah, we're doing everything we can to not talk about Mac and Me.
So apparently, the producer, RJ Lewis, actually fought to get this movie made and negotiated a deal with McDonald's for the usage of the brand, right? Because what he wanted to do was to get all the profits to go to charity.
Well, that does answer the flip side of that question, which was like, what in God's name were McDonald's and Coca-Cola thinking?
I have a theory about that, but we'll go back to that later in the movie. Okay, so we should probably just get started so we can get through this.
Sure. I liked the first shot. It was cool. There's an alien planet and it has a sci-fi paperback kind of look. I quickly discovered that the reason I liked this first shot and kind of perked up and thought it was cool was because I hadn't yet seen our protagonists, the aliens.
Which we are then quickly introduced to, and they basically, to me, look like prolapse colons with eyeballs on it.
They stick straws into the ground, which causes liquid to like spurt out,
Yeah.
and then they like suck frantically at the earth liquids. Maybe they've been exiled from their society because they're so fucking annoying.
That's the theory I had, is that their species are actually plump and covered in fur. But they've been
Yes.
exiled into the wasteland for so long that they turn into these prolapse colons.
This is the story of Jar Jar Binks' family. This is where
Yeah.
George Lucas got episode 1 from. It's all coming together.
I'm gonna just say that's canon now. It's our Mac and Me expanded universe lore. We then see a NASA probe land on this planet. For some reason, it lands in like glorious 8 frames per second. Did you notice
Yeah.
that when it was landing?
Yeah, I remember
It's
it.
really odd. And I have no idea why they chose to slow this down in post, because obviously they didn't shoot this in slow mode, otherwise it wouldn't look like this. And I was like, why would you want to extend this? There's no tension, there's no drama, it's not epic or anything. Like, were they just trying to pad runtime?
The other thing that immediately dashed my hopes for this movie was the music, which is like incredibly irritating. And while we're staring at these extremely static and dull images, there's like this very exciting music, and it just has that desperate quality where they know what they're writing the score for is such a travesty that they just need to do anything they can to generate some sense of excitement and like just like sonically trick you into feeling like you're watching the start of an actual movie.
This family of just like, I don't know, inverted intestines gets sucked into this NASA probe for some reason, and then is brought to Earth.
The probe's just like sucking.
That's, first of all, that's not how NASA missions work. A probe doesn't just land on a planet millions of miles away, vacuum something nearby, and then just immediately take off.
Yeah, so then we get Mac on Earth for the first time, and he kind of like pops out of this NASA thing that they've been sucked into for no apparent reason. It's a very odd sequence because it's kind of shot and cut like a horror movie. I don't know why it feels that way. I guess I just felt off the top like they were kind of just like ripping off different sequences from different films without regard as to what genre they came from or like why those sequences had been done that way in that film, because it really doesn't jive with what I thought was going to be the tone.
They look terrifying. How is this for children? Like, who thought that this would look good for kids?
It does not play well in a world where millions of kids already found E.T. to be terrifying.
So Mac gets hit by a bunch of cars and then sneaks into the vehicle of an incredibly unlikable family, with the mom who looks, for a brief moment, I thought, was a discount Costco version of Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, the family is very unlikable, and they obviously are taking their Spielberg cue here with it has that like looseness of the family the same way E.T. does, where you kind of feel like you're looking at a real American family because you see all their foibles and their complaints. And
An alien driving under the influence.
did they show the aliens to these
I was gonna
companies?
ask this, yeah, because McDonald's, Coca-Cola, all these companies, if there's one thing they're good at, is branding. And nobody from their PR, their marketing department looked at this fucking thing and go, maybe we shouldn't affiliate ourselves with this.
You only need to see the alien to know how this entire movie experience is going to go. I don't want to keep coming back to this reaction, but I just like hated them so much when I looked at them. When you see them walk, you just like hate them.
Tell them I hate them.
I wish they kept the costume and reused these characters in a horror movie. I think it would have been really suitable.
There's still time now. Someone should do it.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. You're hunted down by the aliens from Mac and Me. Yeah, and they could drink your brain fluids through a straw. We get the first sequence of Mac kind of on his own. Unlike E.T., where Spielberg, who has, some instincts about movies that work in his favor, he very quickly had Elliot discover E.T. because that's like the premise. But Mac and Me, we really have to suffer for a long time of Mac not being known to the kids, and these awful sequences of Mac just like hanging around the house in this again, vaguely like horror-ish way. Like doing weird things and changing things around the house. But another issue is just the design of Mac, and especially the fact, which you already alluded to, that his mouth apparently doesn't close. So he just stands there with this gaping butthole mouth like all the way through the movie. And it even like puckers. They had money. They like animated the mouth. He's very unpleasant to look at. Mm-hmm. And for a long time we're watching him just like haunt their house with his awful butthole mouth.
I wonder if there's a rule 34 of Mac and Me.
And that's where we'll leave that question forever.
This is my sister, Courtney.
Hi.
Hi. We'll talk later.
Okay. See ya.
Bye.
Never has so much dialogue and screen time been used for so little.
The kids, while we're talking about the writing, the kids are also like the most nonsensically written kid characters. They relate to each other in such weird and generally like adult writing a kid ways. So then we get into the real sort of meat of the first half here, where there's like a race car and it's driving around by itself, and then he sets it down and it drives away, and the very Spielbergy music playing, and it's a very Spielbergy sequence where ordinary household things act oddly, and the house becomes a place of wonder and where strange things happen, and they're just reaching so hard for these Spielbergian sequences of wonder, but there's just absolutely no logic or interest to anything that happens.
Well, it feels like the same problem that we had, that we sensed from Airplane Mode, right? With like the Logan Paul movie, is that I feel like the writer-director of this film also went, that moment in that Spielberg movie made me feel good. Let's just copy that moment, but without considering what led up to it and why. We get to the scene where the living room overnight has been transformed into this, and this idiotic mother's conclusion immediately is that her disabled, wheelchair-bound son is responsible for moving entire trees and shrubs and stuffed animals into the living room in silence overnight.
Is this what kids do for mischief? Construct these elaborate, like, nature environments and layouts in a living room?
He's just an asshole. This whole family just sucks. Both families sucks. Which reminds me, if you're interested in listening to the full-length discussion of this episode, you can find it on our Patreon. The link is on screen and in the description down below. If you go over there, you will get the entire recording in an audio format like a podcast. Check it out. Support us. Help us keep doing this. We really appreciate it. Anyways. Oh, yeah. Okay, we both got notes for this one, but you go first.
I mean, it's one of the all-time so bad it's good moments of this movie.
I mean, so Eric slides down this incline. It falls off a lake. It falls off a cliff into a lake, which, like, we get this glorious shot of, like, Max sitting up in front of the camera. And I just want to know is, why did they need to digitize this? Because were they not able to bring the puppet
just put it there
in front of the camera, or did they do the later shot where Mac is like slowly sinking into the water as if he's swimming, but he just sinks, and then the puppet got water damage, and then they couldn't go back and shoot this scene? Is that what happens? And then they had to digitize it. I don't know, but like.
Also, while the kid is rolling down the hill, there's the classic beat where he like tries to hit the brakes, and then it like breaks the lever off. Each time I saw him, it got worse, but, like, he's sitting on this hill, and he just looks like this, like, dirty, stretched, like, mutant baby, and it kind of looks like he's leaned against a rock, like, urinating with his legs spread open. Mac and this movie are so disgusting to look at that they like, cause you to think horrific things.
the confrontation, I guess, where the neighbor girl helps Eric and his brother. For some reason, Eric's decision is to trap it with a vacuum. Now, we know it works because we saw the NASA probe do it. Does he know? How did he come to this conclusion first? Why is the vacuum the first device he chose?
He's really lucky it wasn't just a garden variety break in and stab you guy.
This like lumpy bag of mayo alien is revived with a can of Coke after being fried by electricity, which makes me think, was that a too subtle and shitty way of hinting at a combo meal, as in Mac, Coke, and fries?
I hope so. We see the family in even more detail, or I don't know if they just put more effort into the makeup this time, or if I just didn't notice before. But anyway, we just like see the family and their awful bodies. I felt like they kind of looked like unclad like Cenobites from Hellraiser, like just like naked Hellraiser Cenobites, except that they're like sick, they're like sickly dying leper Cenobites that have maybe been like banished from hell because they were making everyone feel depressed.
They made hell too sad. If you take like that tropey inbred the Hills Have Eyes kind of family,
yeah,
but their family was in Chernobyl. And it's like 4 generations of inbreeding in Chernobyl. This is what they would look like.
I think you've just written another horror movie, George. Wrong Turn 10, Chernobyl.
The hills have many eyes on one head.
I did feel like it was a standout sequence in the movie just for its like sheer energetic idiocy of like all the neighborhood dogs chasing after this little alien. Did kind of give me this just like insane charge, like that a Nicolas Cage performance can kind of give you or something, where you're just watching like unbridled madness being presented.
And then we arrive at the 2 to 3 minute long McDonald's commercial where there's a party at McDonald's. It is very much one big McDonald's commercial because it takes place at a McDonald's and there's a bunch of kids there and they're having a party and there's people dancing and singing, right? The thing is, while this whole movie already is one big product placement commercial, somehow this sequence feels even more like a commercial within a commercial.
Yeah.
I theorize they hired the crew that makes the normal TV commercials for McDonald's to film this sequence because it really gave that old commercial McDonald's TV commercial vibe.
That would make total sense. I agree with you. Like even the shots and cutting just feel a little bit different. It does seem like it could have been handled by some walk-on workers. I was pretty impressed with how standardized McDonald's messaging was even at this time, that when I think of a commercial in a movie theater today, it basically is this. So this continued to stoke my confusion over what Mac does and doesn't understand, because here my understanding of this sequence is that Mac like starts a dance party as cover to prevent the government agents from being able to grab him so that he can then make his escape, which suggests to me like a remarkable command of the dynamics on Earth.
Yeah.
And like what tactics are available to him. Oh yeah, so Mac like helps them flee and they manage to escape and they go hide in a mall. The reason that the government agents discover where they are is that the little boy has chosen to sit in the middle of an aisle in sight of the door that they just ran through to hide. And during this chase, Mac is using his powers to help, which includes like causing TVs to explode. If he shoots his finger guns at people, like, can he like explode your dick? I understand it's like an electricity-based power.
Are you telling us your dick is electrically powered?
Are you telling us yours isn't? I'm exactly like the guy in Space Truckers.
One of us is not the same as the rest of humanity.
And so the reason they're at this wind farm is that Mac, I guess, knew where his dying family was all along. Is that accurate?
I think so, yeah.
Because he just leads them there now.
Yeah.
So all the near death of Mac's family is like completely on him, because all he needed to do was just ask them to drive here. Why do they trust or believe in this like detestable little homunculus that has just like arrived in their lives and done Nothing. Like, they're super lucky that it's not just like a nest of horrible other gremlin creatures down here. And they all look like Mac, and like they get into the mine and all these creatures jump on them and like lock them away in sex dungeons.
It is horrendous to look at with them just laying here like this and kind of nude, but kind of not.
And I don't even, it's so funny with the ET connection because sickly ET is also kind of horrendous to look at when he's dying. And it's hard to say, like, if you just looked at two images side by side, I'd be interested to know, like, if it's possible to just sort of identify the differences that make E.T. Compelling.
It's because Mac's family is too humanoid. They are proportionally bipedal and just human, because it's a guy, it's people in a suit, right? So it's human proportions, but because they have such like tight, wrapped up, but then also loose folds of skin, and they have like these bulging faces that look like they're allergic to something, it gives you the sensation of severe illness.
Gotcha. Like
on a person.
Could Steven Spielberg have made E.T. successfully if E.T. was Mac?
That's an interesting alternate universe you just created through that thought. From the creator of Schindler's List, from the creator of Saving Private Ryan and E.T. the Extraterrestrial comes Mac and Me.
Oh yeah, so they get themselves into some issues. But one thing that they do is they're all fired up about pop now, so they try to steal a pop can from this woman. But again, it's quite a horrifying moment. Without regard, just like smashes his hand forward through a glass window, sending real glass flying everywhere, and snatches for this stranger's Sprite can.
And as he snatches the can away, he flips the woman off. Did you notice that?
He does. So they're just like, now that they've been revitalized with Coca-Cola, their intent was just to go on like a violent crime spree.
Yes, because the next 5 minutes really escalates.
Really escalates.
There's like a police shootout. It ends with like there's like massive explosions that kills the kid. A lot happens suddenly in the final few minutes. The whole grocery store blows up, and a little digitally imposed Eric like dies.
Bro, the shock force of the explosion just like liquidates his innards.
Yeah. But the sort of shaved bare testicle alien dad resurrects him with some weird occult powers. And I guess for that behavior, for that act of resurrecting a kid from an explosion they caused, the reward is to be sworn in as American citizens. A family of illegal aliens who stole from everybody, got into a police shootout, and did like a Ted Kaczynski level explosion, is rewarded with citizenship.
Just in case it didn't come through strongly enough, because we did just sort of talk, but I like hated this movie.
Yeah.
I hated the experience of watching this movie. We made it 18 minutes before we left to the store for beer. It was like, this was one of my least pleasant experiences the decade so far.
Jesus Christ. You're saying this in 2022.
I did. I got COVID at the start of the pandemic. This was definitely worse than having COVID. There is, I want to say, an archivist named Peter Kaplowski. He was able to hunt down the Japanese VHS of Mac and Me, which contains an alternative climactic sequence. A police officer draws his revolver. The police officer fires twice and just straight up shoots the kid in the fucking chest. The kid is straight up shot to death by cops.
I mean, I think I already know the answer, but I want to know, what would you rate this movie?
The last time I ate McDonald's is 3 a.m. I was coming home from a film shoot, and I sat there in this SUV eating that burger. I could just feel the tragedy of my coming 24 hours. And I knew that, like, I was going to have awful shit. And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? And I just sat there and I just, like, kept eating this burger that I wasn't even enjoying. That's how I feel about Mac and Me.
This may be finally the thing that makes me quit McDonald's forever. Next week, we are doing something a whole lot better, I hope, because it is a guilty pleasure movie for both of us, I think.
Yeah, heck yeah.
We are doing Van Helsing,
From-
starring Hugh Jackman, Kate Beckinsale, and a couple of other Maxim models, I think.
Yes. Oh, man, this is gonna feel so good after Mac and Me.
Yeah. Van Helsing, I watched it way later, I think closer to like the end of high school when I could understand it.
Yeah.
That movie almost gave me a second puberty. Just
Be
being in
careful
it.
with second puberty. Maybe that's how you end up a Mac and Me.
Press like and subscribe because we had to sit through Mac and Me, so you know, I feel like that is the all-time sacrifice anybody could ever make for entertainment of others. No one should be subjected to this kind of pain.
1 million subscribers. We will spearhead a campaign to send that NASA probe back to whatever that fucking planet was and take all the liquid out of the Earth's crust so that the rest of the Mac and Me's die and we never have to see them again.